All right, so we are continuing our conversations about what I hope to be relevant topics to you guys, things that you experience in everyday life. So we talked about the process of science, we talked about animal ancestors, and we are animals. This module, I want to talk about chocolate. Hopefully everybody's interested. Hopefully everybody eats chocolate in some form, some fashion. Maybe it's those little M&Ms, candy bars. Maybe it's chocolate ice cream or just chocolate milk, chocolate sauce on your whatever. But let's talk about chocolate. There is an incredible amount of biology behind chocolate. So we're going to talk about the science and the biology behind chocolate and hopefully put it into relative terms for you guys. Relevant terms, hey, why is this important to me? So what I would encourage, if you're a fan of chocolate, go grab a bag of M&Ms while we're going through this module. Take a look at it. Grab a Hershey's bar. Grab a cup of hot chocolate if it's cold enough to be drinking hot chocolate. If not, make some chocolate milk. But let's talk about chocolate. So to navigate to the biology of chocolate module, go into the relevancy modules, find chemistry, cells, and metabolism, click on that drop down arrow, and then you're going to have to scroll down about a third of the way down, and you'll see the module over here that says the biology of chocolate. So I want you to click on that. That is where this content is going to be found. Why do we learn about chocolate? What's important? How does chocolate apply or biology apply to a chocolate bar with almonds and so on? So that's where this content is housed. So when you click on it, you should see this young lady eating a chocolate bar. Now, when we look at chocolate and we talk about chocolate, what we eat in the US is nothing, well, I shouldn't say nothing. Most likely, it is not authentic chocolate. It's not what the original chocolate was. Chocolate originated in Central and South America around 480 AD. It originated with a group of people known as the Olmecs. This culture, this knowledge, this history, this ability to grow chocolate, cacao is the plant, was then passed down through the cultures to the Mayan people. And they used chocolate for medicinal purposes, ceremonial drinks, currency, all sorts of uses. It was an important product for them. The nobility, the royalty in these cultures were often the ones who had control over cacao or chocolate. When Cortez in 1529 was exploring Central and South America, he discovered chocolate. That's the picture on the right here. It says a Mayan nobleman presenting Cortez with chocolate. Now again, this is a very different chocolate than what we have today. So if you're eating those M&Ms, that chocolate is milk chocolate. What chocolate started as was more of what we would use today as a baker's chocolate, that dark chocolate that's kind of bitter. That is closer to the original chocolate that was discovered back in, or grown and discovered and used back in 400 AD, all the way up until Cortez discovered it. And then Cortez brings it back to Europe and it explodes and starts moving all across Europe. So this is what we're seeing. Yep. The cacao tree. Now, when we look at the cacao tree, it produces these big red seed pods. Now, what's weird about how cacao grows, the seed pods, where the fruit will be found, actually grows on the trunk, not on the branches, but it grows up the length of the trunk. And then as cacao ripens, you rip open that pod, that shell, and you get the smaller thing inside here that's where the cacao seeds are found. So actually little seeds that are then ground and roasted and used and processed into all sorts of different chocolate aspects. All right, so the Central American cultures were consuming vast quantities of chocolate for centuries before it made its way to Europe. It wasn't until 1905 that chocolate makes its way to the US. Milton Hershey, Pennsylvania. 1857 to 1945 was Milton Hershey's life. In 1905, I gotta fix my font. Milk chocolate is developed in the United States by Milton Hershey. So anybody eating a Hershey's bar, you can thank Mr. Hershey. Thank Milton for developing it. He opened up a factory in Hershey, Pennsylvania, and this is where our Hershey bars originated. Now spread all across the United States and throughout Europe, all over the world when we're looking at chocolate. All right, so what I want you to think about with chocolate is, what is it? What is in chocolate that makes chocolate special? Get that out of there. And what makes it special? What makes it unique? What makes it different than other foods that we're eating? So, the cacao beans, when we get those beans, what we're doing is taking those beans and fermenting them or drying them or roasting them. All sorts of different things can be done to those beans. From the beans, and depending upon how it's processed, you can make cacao butter, which now you have an oil. This is the vegetable fat portion of the cacao seed, so it helps in the processing of chocolate. You then have the cacao solids. That is the actual parts of the cacao seeds. Sometimes people just mix those with hot water and make hot chocolate. Very different than what we have in the US though. And then you say, oh, okay, now most European and American chocolates are sweetened, so sugar's thrown in there. So it either comes from sugar cane or sugar beets, and it sweetens the chocolate. Again, if you've never had dark chocolate or baker's chocolate, try it. This is not those little Hershey Kisses you might have a bag of in your cabinet to make chocolate chip cookies. Baker's chocolate is very bitter. That is close to the original chocolate. And then, again, depending upon the chocolate bar or the chocolate product that we're using, sometimes milk powder or condensed milk is added into it to help remove, kind of take out some of that bitterness. So when we think of chocolate, it's not a pure food. It's got a bunch of different things added into it to give it the uniqueness that each of us individually prefers. So find your favorite type of chocolate, and let's take a look at it. So each of you, if you have a bag or a wrapper from a chocolate bar, or the package from chocolate syrup or chocolate powder for hot cocoa, I want you guys to look at these ingredients and actually see what's in there. Okay? So here's some quick facts over chocolate. By the numbers. Let me actually... All right, so by the numbers here, 1% of U.S. chocolate sales are organic. And we'll talk about this later on, what makes organic chocolate. Most of what we consume is not organic, and it's not very environmentally friendly. Tastes great, but it's not really doing the environment any good when we're eating tons and tons of chocolate. I'd encourage you guys, if you like chocolate and you want to be environmentally friendly, seek out sources of sustainable chocolate. sustainable cacao production. And again, we'll talk about this later on because that's part of biology. How is our food grown and produced? 4 top exporting chocolate countries: Germany, Italy, Poland, and Belgium. So Sweden doesn't rank up there in the top 4. You know, not there. US, definitely not there. 4 top growing countries for countries who produce cacao beans: Ivory Coast, Ghana, Indonesia, and Nigeria. So a challenge, and again, this will be later on, we'll talk about it. Most of these countries, well, pretty much all these countries, are developing nations, and often they're exploited to produce resources for developed, wealthy nations. Again, becomes an environmental, and it could be a social issue too, for those of you interested on the social side of food production. Per capita in Switzerland, the highest consumption of chocolate in the world, 8.8 kilograms a year. So a kilo is a little over 2 pounds. So do the math, you're looking at about 17, 18 pounds of chocolate per person per year. That's a lot of M&Ms, a lot of chocolate going on. So again, take a look at the others. $20 billion in sales from Mars Wrigley Company. That's a lot of money in chocolate. It is a global industry when we talk about chocolate. But unfortunately, most of it is not very environmentally friendly, and we're just going to throw a question mark there about the health issues associated with chocolate. In moderation, go for it. Let's have a good time. Overconsumption, not the best, not the healthiest thing for us. So just some quick facts about chocolate that we want to think about as we're eating our M&Ms or our candy bar or whatever form of chocolate you guys have going on here. So, all right. So let's see if anybody has one of these out there. Chocolate bar. Oh, I gotta work on my. With almonds. Sorry about that. I get going too fast when I'm typing sometimes. All right, so we got a chocolate bar with almonds. I'm a big fan of these guys. I love them. Good stuff. What's in it? That's what I want us to think about. What's in that chocolate bar with almonds? Or if you guys are not an almond fan, no worries. What's in your chocolate bar? So we're going to break this down to the basic organic molecules. So when we talk about basic organic molecules, there are 4 of them here I want you guys to know. So please make sure you're writing this down. Let me actually increase the font, and I'm going to make it red. All right, carbohydrates, organic molecule number 1. Lipids, organic molecule number 2. Proteins, organic molecule number 3. And nucleic acids, organic molecule number 4. These are your basic organic molecules. Each molecule has a different purpose. They all can be used, well, carbs, lipids, and proteins can all be used for energy, but that's not what we want to do with some of these things. So what I want you guys to understand is, what is the purpose of each of these organic molecules? Why should we consume them? And then what's the balancing act? How many carbs should we consume? How many lipids? How much protein? Nucleic acids by default you're getting anytime you eat something. So you don't ever have to worry about, did I get my nucleic acids? It's the other 3. We want to figure out what is the ideal balancing act for each of us personally. And this will change throughout life. If you're an athlete, high protein for muscle repair. If you're a polar bear going into the winter for storing energy, lots of lipids. If you're a marathon runner, heavy carbs for energy, things like that. So we'll go into this as we move into our next lecture. Again, I want to keep these roughly around 15 minutes. So come back for part 2 and we'll talk about those carbs. Enjoy your chocolate though.